Welcome back to the 80s Toy Aisle. Today we are joined by a man who has turned 80s nostalgia into a literal mission of preservation. He is the founder of RediscoverThe80s.com, the curator of the definitive Agents of M.A.S.K.com, and the voice behind the Rediscover the 80s YouTube and Instagram channels. But more than just a historian, our guest is a creator and a veteran who brings a unique, disciplined perspective to the toys we love. He is currently developing an absolutely massive M.A.S.K. live action screenplay, and we're going to get into the details of that vision tonight. Please welcome a true guardian of pop culture, Wyatt Bloom.
Well, thank you for having me there.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm glad to have you.
Yeah, this has been a long journey. I feel like I have to correct you just minorly. I am
Okay.
not the founder of Rediscover the 80s. That is my late friend Jason Gross, who was the founder. He was the co-founder with me on the Agents of M.A.S.K. website and the co-writer for our script as well. I'm the curator, I call it, of everything now since his passing.
I'm glad you mentioned him. He deserves mention. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get in with some easy questions to start us off.
Sure.
Okay. Tell us about your childhood and how your passion for toy collecting first took hold.
Well, I was just ate up with 80s cartoons, obviously, and just interested in everything that was out there. I was not the mask guy as I have come to be in the last 15, arguably 15 years. But I was pretty much anything action figure. You know, you have Michael Knight, and Kit, and you have the G.I. Joe figurines, obviously, and then of course you got the mask later on. I had one mask toy as what I had, which was the Brad Turner and Condor helicopter bike. That was my lone, uh, I guess, mask toy back in childhood. But pretty much whatever I saw, I wanted. Probably like kids nowadays, we see something on TV, got to have it. So thankfully, my parents were pretty up on whatever I was watching on the tube.
Hmm. I think we all share that same experience. We didn't stick with just one toy franchise. We collected a bunch of them. I know Transformers was my big thing. So
Hmm.
there's some similarity with Mask.
Yes,
Um, and there were superpowers and a few GoBots, a few GI Joe, so forth in there.
absolutely. I
And
had Transformers and GI Joes. I didn't think to grab them all, but they're around here somewhere.
oh yeah, yeah. Do you still have your childhood ones?
Actually, I do. In fact, all these figurines I just flagged up. I don't think we're shooting video,
Oh,
but
yeah.
these are all my
Oh,
childhood.
we're
Some of
shooting
them
video.
actually.
Yeah.
So I have my GI Joe, or actually Cobra twins. You got Lifeline. I don't
Mhm.
remember this guy from the tank.
Mm.
Uh, the yellow and green GI Joe, and of course I did have a Kit. I don't know where Kit
You
went.
must have had Kit. Yeah, you must have
I
had.
had Kit. I can't
Yeah.
find him.
Oh,
Must still be in my parents' attic somewhere.
something
So
interesting about Kit. They used an actual, as opposed to now, which we have highly computerized voice synthesizers. From what I'm told, they actually had a record that would play, you know, like a
I believe
phonograph,
it.
mini
I believe it.
miniature.
I remember hearing a light, like scratchy voice whenever you pull down on the license plate. So yeah, it could be easily
Yeah,
be.
you
Never
had to
taken
make
it
it.
apart.
You had to make it happen somehow. You know, these toy
Right.
manufacturers really had to do something. All right. Here's an interesting second question. You served as a tech sergeant in the Air Force. Did that experience give you a different context or appreciation for the toy lines, which were large, well, with exception of Knight Rider, Transformers and GI Joe and so forth, a different perspective on the war environment?
Sadly, no.
Oh, okay.
The cartoons and that really never influenced. I saw a lot of things mimicked, especially in GI Joe world,
Mm,
but um, it was too fantasized compared to what we really did in the Air Force. I mean, we worked alongside with, we called it joint endeavors. So we worked with the Army and the Navy, fellow Air Force. A couple times I saw the Marines or the Coast Guard, but not as often. But it was, we still had bullets, we still had the training gear, we still had the helmets. We did do a laser tag military. It's called Miles. I can't remember what it stands for, but it's essentially another laser type. Uh, there's little dots on a headband that you strap to your helmet, and then you have a harness on your chest that's the same way, and it's just like the classic laser tag of at the 80s.
yeah.
You shot Now you shot a weapon, you had blanks in it, and the recoil from that shell, the gun going off,
Mm.
would tell
Push,
the laser to shoot,
push. Yeah.
and you were just hoping you were shooting your enemy or opponent.
Right.
It was very rarely sighted very well, so you're shooting the guy, but it's not registering, and the guy's going, yeah, you can't get me.
Yeah.
So
You basically you got me. The childhood game of you got me. No, you didn't.
exactly. Now I did get to play with the toys,
Oh, yeah.
the big toys. That is, I got to drive the Humvees. Um, I was up to they call it the MRAP, which is the mine resistant anti personnel vehicle. It's been a while since I remember all the acronyms.
Oh.
So I got to play with all those vehicles. The Humvee was okay. It was actually sluggish compared to what you would think it is. It's a powerhouse. It's meant to go four wheeling, but it's not meant to go hauling races like the Dukes of Hazzard or anything like that.
It reminds me of those acronyms from GI Joe. I wasn't. I'm somewhat familiar with the '80s GI Joe toy line. Of course I know I've seen some of the cartoons and
Sure,
so forth, but
sure.
it reminds me of those acronyms. Like they were at the beginning, especially they were trying for realism, and then around the third year or something, they got sci-fi hungry.
Exactly. You got a lot of similarities. You got the A10, but it was kind of extra sized. They had to make it unique.
Mm.
The same with the SR-71. It was never really a SR-71, but they mimicked it, and I can't remember the jet's name, but it
Oh,
had a mini pod on top of it.
oh, that was my favorite. I think it was
Yeah,
Nighthawk, something like Nighthawk or Night Raven. I think it was the Night
Night
Raven. That
Raven.
was one of
Night
my
Raven.
favorites too.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And then of
And I
course
have a
there.
few of those tanks too. They're again in my toy box. My recording booth is very small.
Oh,
Um, that's my recording booth. If you can see my length, the width of my hands there, that's it. And I'm just in the little tiny closet underneath my steps.
oh.
That's my studio.
It's a battle of space, I
It
guess.
is.
Yeah, I never got it. My parents just didn't have the money, and but the
Yeah.
USS Flag, the aircraft carrier,
Oh yeah.
that would be like I would consider that a holy grail. I mean, people have
It
characterized
is.
it as a large footstool, but I
Could
think
be. Yes.
it's wonderful. I haven't played with it. I haven't had hands experience with it, but
I have seen one once in person, and that was at the RetroCon that me and my late friend Jason would go. Patreon. I still go up there every year, and they had one of the early years that we went up. They had one all set out, and it was for sale. It had the price there. It said 99% complete. So I don't know what it was missing,
yeah, some
but the
little
price tag
gadget
already,
somewhere,
yeah, the
the
price tag
figure
already
or
scared me
something.
off.
I
It
don't
was
know.
like $900 or something
Oh
crazy.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Especially
but
when
people
once you,
do it.
as a collector, if we go to the collector route for a little while,
Yeah,
tangent for a little while, collecting these in mint condition can really be tricky, especially with GI Joe, of course, Transformers, Mirage has that. They have their classic known problems when you're looking for them in mint condition, like Mirage it's split in half, the one with a waist
hmm,
that's fully connected, or Prowl or Blue Streak having the window, ones with the windows intact, and so
right,
can be
right.
tricky. Yeah. um all right. You're an authority on Agents of Mask. What are some of the most fascinating origins of that line that you discovered during your research?
Well, initially for the movie, we actually went through the cartoon as the canon and not the comic books. As we went later discovered through the comic books, there's almost a different storyline that takes place.
Mm.
We perceive in the cartoon, illusion is the ultimate weapon. So, and they even say in the beginning they don't know, Venom does not know who Mask is, and Mask does know who Venom is, but they kind of allude like they should never find us. There's even points where fellow character, stand-in type of character, uh, Matt or whomever doesn't remove their mask to reveal themselves.
That's
But
interesting.
as you get into the racing series, all of a sudden, I just recovered one. It'll air hopefully within the month. That you know they're they were once good. Matt and Miles were once good. They worked together on a project. So we did learn that through the comics, and we tailored the. I know you'll get to this eventually, but we tailored a script that we had written to kind of start that way. They were in the military. They were part of a kind of a black ops contracted type of environment. They were still military. They still served and had their rankings, but they were friends. They were
Mm.
they were uh, fellow soldiers out on the warfield, and then they they basically split up. Miles ends up in jail. That's where we take him, and that's basically where he gets his rogueness and becomes the bad Venom that we know
Mm.
of. And Matt goes off, starts his own mask type of thing, and they push on from there. And that's how we get our foundation. But honestly, we saw the differences, and we knew and loved the cartoon more than the comic books. Plus, at the time when we wrote the script, we didn't have that many comic books in our hand
Mm.
to go and really piece together a better world, a more congealed world between the cartoon and the comic book. So we just, you know what, 95% will be off of the cartoon, and we'll tweak it how we want the action to go, obviously. But um, we had to, when we discovered that little nuance that they were once good, we're like, yeah, we got to put that
Mm.
breadcrumb in there and just go with that.
Oh, I agree. It's a trope that you see in other things. It's kind of like if I dare to mention, it's like what I would call like Satan falling and taking over, having his own angels. It's like you see that trope a lot of other places
Yes.
they go. Um, I'm also reminded of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the live action movie, which
Yeah.
you're probably very familiar with. They had they had, of course, a lot of young fans that were only, as I was, only familiar with the cartoon series. So
Hmm.
it can be tricky catering to both demographics. You've got the 1984, or you've got the people who are familiar with the original,
Yeah.
or in this, like in Mask, the comic books, and then you've got the people who are only interested or only familiar with the cartoon. And as the Masters of the Universe movie, the live action movie, is coming out, um, I know I would do more of a Conan adult live action drama, but I know I would get backlash because there's so many Filmation fans.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's the thing. I didn't grow up, and we covered this, my friend Jason and we covered this in an episode where we don't remember many places in our little tiny small town USA uh, uh, town that had many comic books available. I'm sure they existed, but it was not on our radar, and no one had it.
Oh,
My, I'm sorry, you're getting interrupted.
that's
I have
okay.
my little kid
That's okay.
going up. Um, so, so the canon for us was more geared towards the cartoon because we had that on the 13-inch or whatever we had in the day on the TV. So we didn't have a call it the novel side, because you see a lot of movies, right? You see a lot of movies. People love the novel versus what they see on the theater. Um, so you get the people just like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I didn't know until much later that there was um, that the Turtles movie specifically was taken more from the comic books than it was the cartoon, but they tried to wiggle some of that in there to keep, please us.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't until years later, because I still remember
Yeah.
watching it as a
Oh,
teenager and going,
yeah.
that's not the Turtles that I remember. April's not that crass. I don't know what was her character. It was a little different.
Mm.
Um, she even said in an interview that she thought it was too dark, and that's why she didn't go on sign on for the second movie. It was
Well, that's interesting. I would have liked to have
too
seen her in the
ninja.
second.
I would have
Yeah.
too. And
Yeah.
you get fixated on the same person, right? So you see Miss Hoag, I think is her last name, is April O'Neil, and then we get the new girl. Uh, appearingly, she looks a little bit younger, um, but I saw little bit more cartoon likeness to her
Mhm.
in the second movie than the first. I'm uh, going on a brain dump for her first name, but Miss Hoag,
Oh,
uh,
Judith Hoag.
Judith Hoag, yes. Um, she just didn't. I don't know. I liked her in the movie. I still think she's the April O'Neil. At the same time, she wasn't the cartoon April O'Neil that I remember.
Mhm.
That again, the girl in the second movie, she's the one that looked more cartoonish, if I can even use it that way. But yeah, there was two differences. Yeah.
Yeah, and also in the second movie, The Secret of the Ooze, there were clear indications they were catering to a child-friendly,
Hmm.
please the parent, satisfy the parent. The violence was toned down in the
Yes.
second movie.
Yes,
Uh,
because it was too violent. Um, I'm sorry if you're hearing my
that's
4-year-old singing
he's
singing
very
loudly.
lively. He's just. I'm
Yes, he
glad
is.
you're raising a lively kid.
I got some characters. I think I have at least two in the making of being Jim Carrey or Robin Williams type, just spontaneous and just whatever they want to do. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Let's move on to the next question. I've noticed toys often have a 3-year cycle: the initial launch, the heyday, and then the sundown.
You're right.
Lines, however, there are two lines that I thought of: Transformers and Masters of the Universe, that broke that mold. They were able to last longer. And for example, in the Transformers line, 1986 would be the bowing out, the sundown, but they, with the movie, they pivoted quite a bit in design. I was wondering if you could comment on that.
So yeah, they were trying just like any other cartoon or toy industry. Really, I mean, it's all that is a 30-minute, toy commercial. They, with the advent of the movie, making it all that dramatic and all that, we're going to sundown Optimus, Ironhide, and several other characters. Sadly, from a kid's point of view, they killed them.
Yeah.
And, I still remember being in the theater listening to lots of boys sniffle because their hero died. But there was so much backlash from that. Parents and so many people writing letters to I don't know who, Hasbro or whomever, and saying you can't kill off that, you can't kill off Optimus. So there was that um, Dream World rewind. They had to reinvent Optimus again and bring him back to life as a ghost white. It's the Optimus, or the Ultra Magnus cab, if you will. And I still remember that being ushered in. But yeah, you got the futuristic style cars. You got Cup and you got Hot Rod, and you got Galvatron, which looks like more of a roundish cannon, not a a 45 Magnum or whatever pistol he's supposed to represent. And you have the futuristic space jets. You don't have the F-15s of
Mm.
Starscream. Now you got um, the Armada and all that other going on. But it's that cycle, like you said, they got to refresh and freshen up. And that's what I feel I'm picking on M.A.S.K right now, but that's what M.A.S.K tried to do with that racing series, the
Yes.
season 2. They argue season 3, but they tried to bring that on, and for whatever reason, it lost its momentum.
Mhm.
Now, me personally looking back, I think it's just that we lost the situation room, the calling up the agents, that whole spinning up of let's select the right agents. Instead, let's just go racing and use that as the reason to usher in these new cars. What they should have done is hire the best agents for this racing episode in Morocco or wherever they're going to do their race, and boom. I think they would have had a little bit lengthier stay than, okay, the original M.A.S.K is essentially dead. Now we're going to have M.A.S.K the racing series. We're going to still use the old M.A.S.K intro, and you still see Thunderhawk, you still see Rhino, and you still see Switchblade enter in. But yeah, that doesn't matter anymore, type of thing. And
No.
it was just a challenging thing that M.A.S.K and Kenner made a bad choice. You don't know if you're going to make a good choice or bad choice in
Mm-mm.
storylines. You never know. And when you try to up yourself, you're rolling the dice. Do you stay with the ones you know? You get the Optimus. Do we keep Optimus around, or do we kill him off and bring in Rodimus Prime and so forth? What do we do with GI Joe? I I'm sadly I wasn't that much of a Joe fan, so I don't remember the escalon or the echelon really of where did they go from to what was their futuristic like? Did they even evolve in any sense? That I didn't have that much experience with GI Joe. I had more experience with the toys because my mom
Mm.
thought I liked them, and that's what I showed. That's what showed up in birthday or Christmas presents. But I play with them, but I don't. That wasn't my favorite. Give me GI Joe. Give me Transformers, GoBots, and M.A.S.K all day long. Even Legos, and I'm a happy camper.
Yeah. It's people talk about it now that that in the Transformers movie that shuttle scene. It's
Mm-hmm.
basically that's when I guess a lot of kids just switched. Huh? Why? That was
Yeah,
the needle scratching the phonograph.
right.
The
It
record.
is.
Yeah.
It didn't. Well, they. I mean, now we think that's the best movie. We pick on, and I've done it myself. We pick on Michael Bay for that new version that came out in 05, 06. And it's just because we grew up with the 80s version, and they, from my eyes, they messed up most of the characters.
Mhm.
But reading Michael Bay, that he did an interview at some point, and he makes no apologies whatsoever. He just took it however he took it. But he was also trying to do it size wise. How, like Optimus, for example, is not a cab over. He's the long nose roadway long hauler truck. And he was saying that to transform the size of the robot, that's how he made it work. And it's make the long nose to make everything transform the way it should. Um, there's arguments I'd never heard, but there's arguments that, like you said, the comic book series is where we get the tank mode um, of Megatron.
Yeah.
I haven't confirmed that, so I could be way off in left field. But hearing people that again go off the comic book series, they say the cartoon is not quite in line with the comic books, and that's where that tank Megatron has shown up. And at some point, yes, there was a transition to a handgun, and that's where we start the fictional life of the Transformers is
Size
there.
matters not.
Right, right. And that was the magic, right? The handgun, which, all of was the size of this, all of a sudden became a mega size handgun for I'm sorry, he grew
Mm.
into the robot that he needed, but then he would downsize
Yeah.
so that
Yeah.
Starscream or whomever could use the gun, which I always thought was pointless because doesn't Starscream have the little arm guns anyway? What was
Yeah.
the difference?
And why Starscream? I mean, why it should be Soundwave. It should
It
be
should be someone that's
Skywar.
loyal, not Starscream, because he's always the one, that doesn't
Starscream
want.
would throw him off a
Right.
cliff, you know. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Um okay. I'm fascinated by toy lines we nearly got, like V and the Last Starfighter and the Dark Crystal. What is your favorite what if in toy history? Um,
That's a challenging one because there were so many what ifs. Didn't know of V until I was a much later adult. Dark Crystal, I watched it as a kid, spooked me quite a bit. Um, I would probably say the Last Starfighter would have been a good one. I didn't learn until recently that Battlestar Galactica, the original one, had a toy line. I was not aware. I would have liked to have seen that. Um, there was probably a few other cartoons series I would have liked to have seen. You think of now this is not cartoon world, but I grew up watching like the Waltons and Little House on the Prairie and some of those sitcoms. It would have been cool to have like
oh,
the Conestoga wagon
yeah.
or the set for the Waltons, which I don't know what that would ever really look like, but the little farm truck and maybe the house, the sawmill that the Waltons used to run would have been kind of cool to have your fictional yesteryear set up, and then you could throw in a DeLorean and make that look like 1855 for Doc. But that aside, cartoon wise, the Last Starfighter would have been a good one. Would have liked to seen a lot. Pole Position was a good
Mm,
another one.
good
Would
one.
have loved to have seen a Pole Position set of cars, maybe with a truck
Mhm.
to haul them in.
Yeah, that brings up some interesting points. I, as a kid, I would take my largely Star Wars figures and I would pretend that they were like sitcom characters, like
Hmm.
find certain ones that linked up. There was an actual toy line of not Gilligan's the Love Boat, believe it or not.
Really,
Yeah,
I missed that.
I don't know who was who was thinking at that point, but somebody
Hey, good
apparently
on them.
thought the Love Boat was hip and big and popular, and hey,
There's so many shows that have that one off. Think of Street Hawk. There
mm,
was a 11, 12 episode series that didn't last, didn't get a hook, but they got a Street Fighter
oh,
motorbike, and I think there was a character for it. Highwayman. They could have had
mm,
a field day with that, splitting a truck open, and here's your helicopter. That never materialized. Um, that would have been fun to see. The RetroCon, I'm trying not to commercialize it. That's the one lone convention that we've gone to. That's where we see the stuff that we never knew existed. I'm surprised I haven't seen the Love Boat character because we'll be going by there, and it's amazing what you'll find that's way out of left field that you never knew existed. Maybe there is a Walton's lunchbox
yeah,
that would
yeah.
have never thought that existed. Alf, as popular as he was, I didn't know they made a keychain, um, and yet this is one of the
You
original
actually,
keychains
oh wow,
that I
yeah,
found at RetroCon. The person there had, I don't know, I don't know, 30, 40 of them.
that's a
She
keeper.
was, yeah, it is. And she was selling them off. I don't know how, I can't remember what it was. It wasn't much. It was like $5, $10, but still, it's, whoa, they made a keychain.
Yeah,
And I saw this for 2 or 3 years straight before I finally succumbed and bought one. Um, but you
that's the
see,
fun of these. That's the fun
yeah,
of going around and just discovering. Hey, they made that. You know these conventions. Hey, they made something.
that's right. And then
They're
there's custom
catalogs.
stuff that they do there too. You see custom Legos of yesteryear that people have made. I haven't seen an Alf, but I'll use that as an example. You'll come across, oh, they made an Alf. Well, who thought that one up? Well, that's actually cool. And it's modern. Obviously, someone's just uh, remade it. But that's the fun of this specific convention that you just never know that something existed until you go there. And I'm sure it's the same with different Comic Cons and the conventions out there. I'm right near Baltimore Con. I should go and see what that one's like. It's more of a true comic book character side. Me, I'm retro, the toy lines, the music and the stuffed toys and whatever else. So I steer a little. I've been jaded with RetroCon, so I because of that, and that's why I've stuck close to it. Um, but I need to just get myself out and
Go
see what's out there.
explore. Yeah.
That's right. There's one in Annapolis. Again, I'm pretty handy of these areas, being in Maryland. There's one that they rent out a convention hall at a hotel. It's not very big, but they're starting, and it's just like miniature. I call it RetroCon. You just go in. There's the toy lines. There's posters. There's puzzles or games, and there's the new stuff too. People are trying to, the Funko or whatever retro like modern stuff that's out there that they sell, and it's pretty cool to see.
Display versus play. Do you think the playability of modern toys is being lost in favor of displayability for collectors?
For some, yes. I know a lot of collectors that they have all these toys. They got a Thunderhawk sitting there, and they don't use it anymore. They don't play with it. It's just sitting in behind a glass case or on a bookshelf. I don't know if it's touchable or not. Some people, they have the new in box still, or they have one that's the display model, but they don't have an actual, uh, I'll call it a playable figure. Mine, I grew up with this. I am a little overprotective a little bit. I'll say, hey, don't do this, don't go smashing, don't crash, but they're still toys.
Mhm.
Now they're not the collector's one. This one, obviously, I just showed you the Thunderhawk. The guns don't come down. In fact, the little hinge, I've already lost a spring on the one door here. So, it needs some tinkering, some TLC to make it workable.
Mhm.
But go play, go have a good time, go see what it's like. I'll bring one home, usually from a convention, um, and they'll have at it. They'll play with it. I've my late friend, he was thoughtful. He would always sporadically just send me Christmas or whatever gift. I got a rhino some time ago. It's not pristine by any means. The chrome is faded on the grill, but the kids have a blast with it, and that's fine. I thankfully a lot of them are just mostly repairable.
Mm.
They're a little screw or a little thumb kind of push on the little tab, and it goes right back into place. It's
A little
nothing.
screwdriver, tighten something here.
Right. And this is probably the most cumbersome one, the Thunderhawk here. There's a little, it's probably not visible by the camera, but there's a little um like a clothespin spring inside there.
Oh, I
And that's
see. Yeah.
it's hard to see, but it just fell off. That's the only thing that's wrong with this. So I just got to get in there probably with tweezers or something like that, and reposition it, and it's back into place. But it does the job of letting the kids play.
Yeah. I kind of feel mixed. I would err on the side of playability. I mean, you buy it. They're toys that are meant to be played with.
I agree, and I don't. The ones I buy at the convention are the $20-$30 ones. They're not the ones I've circled the convention. You'll find probably in the same condition. You'll find the same one for $80.
Mm.
And I find, now again, this one came from my late friend too, but I'll find them sitting there for $20-$30. I bought a pack of they're overhead somewhere. I don't see them right now, but I have more figures I bought. I bought them as a bag of, I don't know, $20, and I got, I don't know, 5 or 6 of them up there.
Oh,
Various characters.
are they mask figures or are they different?
Yeah.
Oh,
There Well, I got one. My kids must have found them.
Oh,
But I got Rax. You know,
oh
he's
yeah,
missing
major
his
character.
mask.
Yeah.
I found a stinger. You know, so I have a few here. One of these stingers is actually due for some repairs, and I don't know which one it is. I think this was my good one. But I had one of them. I somehow got three. I don't know how I came across three of them, but one's pretty well beat up. So I'm making it my junkyard model. Yeah.
They need a visit to Boulder Hill is what they need.
They do. I don't have that guy, but yeah, that'd be nice to have Boulder Hill.
It's good that you have more than one. You said three stingers somehow. Like if you can take take parts from one and put I'm sounding like car enthusiasts. If you can take some parts and kind of Frankenstein them together.
People do that. Jason was a big collector in that. He went on this epilogue for, I don't know, about 3 years. And he had at one point collected every single M.A.S.K toy, but he'd go and get lots, and they would be parts lots. So you might see pieces of a Rhino, but there's a handful of other pieces and parts of M.A.S.K. But okay, that's fine. But okay, I need the shell of Rhino. Now I got it. But in this second lot I bought, I found the doors. So now I can piece a Rhino together. And oh, wait, this handful of stuff. Oh, I have a missile, which is rare to find anyway. I got a missile for Stinger. I can put it in my Stinger or, keep a hold of it. Okay, well, I have 3 sets of doors for Thunderhawk. Well, I don't need them. I'll re-auction them out. And that's what he would do, is he would cycle these through. And then eventually he did have at one point all of the M.A.S.K toys.
Wow,
including
accommodation in and of itself.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Yeah, and I don't know where that collection is. I don't know if his wife has sold it off or gave it away yet or not. I don't know.
Please, if something happened to it, I hope it went to a good, deserving collector.
I agree. Me too.
Let's go on to the next question. I want to talk about third-party companies, those ones that are smaller. We have Hasbro and Mattel, and they're very protective of copyrights and trademarks and so forth. But there are some toys that are toy character ideas that, for lack of mass production, for whatever reason, the big companies won't make them. But there are these smaller collectors that may put them out. Wink, wink. This is our Commander toy, but it's really a version of Optimus Prime. Do you think that these third parties could coexist?
It's so challenging with rights. Licenses and so forth. I know they exist. We've bought, I don't know, countless one-offs or cheaper versions of the Lightning McQueen series for my kids. We found them on a Chinese website somewhere, and they're a fraction of the cost of what you'd buy at the department store right here. And you get they'd be unique, not just the standard red and lightning strike. It might be a Hershey's Chocolate World, version of it, or whatever color scheme, and it's unique. I think that there's a partly a world for it, but it's challenging for the mass producing Kenners and Tonkas of the day to make those one-offs, because then they have to stop the line and change the paint scheme for a handful or a smaller lot, versus we can mass produce 20,000 units and go out the door and we're done in a month, versus now we got to stop the line, change the paint code, change the whatever, this pinstripes, whatever, and change it all for 100 lots, 100 units, and then change it right back again. So it's challenging. I like having the variety, obviously, but I also know and understand the licensing. As much as I don't agree with it, I understand it. It's my product. If I'm the one making and designing this car, just like the music industry, I want my 2 cents for every one of these that's sold, versus the guy that's being able to 3D print the same car and make it blue. Yeah, no, I don't. I'm not getting 2 cents out of that. So I understand it. But I like the custom work too. It's one of those, it's a fine line right on the fence. Yeah.
You brought up something, 3D printing. I wonder if, now I've seen a video on YouTube where somebody was able to construct, his goal was to construct a sound wave, like a real working sound wave. I don't know about the working part of it, but a
There is a video.
transformable sound wave.
There
Yeah.
is a video, several videos. There is a transformable Optimus Soundwave. There is the tank version of Megatron. I think there's a Bumblebee out there now. There might be more. In like vein, there are 3D printed, like Boulder Hill. Someone has made the foundation or basement style. I think it's 3 layers. I think I've seen now, where there's the jail cell, there's the mask room where they're going to go get their masks. Then there's the briefing HQ room, command center where they have the big screen. So people, they've even 3D printed the transport plane, which never existed, but someone did it. So these people, in that way, they're not licensed. No one ever made this thing. Now the name is licensed, sadly, and that goes into that whole charade of that. But again, this guy, I can get a transport plane and I can put Thunderhawk and one of the cars in there, Condor, and now I can 50-year-old person, now I can play with my transport plane, right? Things like that. You get Shark, which never came out.
Good
Someone has
point.
made, Makima is who made that. They made a Shark that we had all been wanting for. One made a magma mole, which was a rogue vehicle that Venom had at one point. And that's where it's cool to have these people that know and understand 3D printing and know how to make it do whatever it needs to do to design it and then actually functionally print that item. And it's incredible.
I want to squeeze in some time
Yeah,
for you to talk about your Mask live action screenplay. Would you like to talk about that?
absolutely. We
Okay,
have
I figured.
been trying every which way to bang on Hasbro's door or whomever really will entertain us. Hasbro, we believe, has the full license or most of it, but it's a live action movie. It's centered around, like I said earlier, more of the cartoon is the canon. We weave in a little bit of uh, the comics, but not. It's very loose, and it's all live action. You get the foundations. You get to understand how Matt and even Venom, all of Venom characters, except for 1 or 2, were there in the beginnings. Vanessa is there. Nash Gory is there. Um, I think those are the 2 bigger ones that were there in the beginnings that worked for the same. We call it the agency, kind of like Airwolf had the firm.
Yeah.
We tried to have a funky, unique name, but a plain Jane name like the firm. The agency is what we called it to have for that. And then they, of course, go rogue. Miles, that is, gets sentenced to jail, and now this agency has been mostly disbanded. The unit that Matt and the rest of them, the M.A.S.K experiment has been disbanded. So now we have Matt, who still has access to everything, goes off with Alex, and they start making their own masks, and they're going to make their own, what we know of as M.A.S.K to this day, where they're the not a vigilante. We don't really write in how they are allowed to operate, but they're allowed to operate within the law, kind of like Michael Knight. He's allowed to work within the law. I don't know how he got away with smashing through buildings with Kit, but that was what Devin paid for.
Yeah. Devin had this nightmare of
Yes,
like a bill repair.
that's right. Kind of like what's his name? Stark, always having to, how fast can we buy this building as he's impaling it?
Did you have any moments where you had to infuse, go beyond the M.A.S.K, the kind of established M.A.S.K universe, and infuse things for the movie?
A little bit. We tried to get it as real as possible, but we did the Death Star. We changed it a smidge. We called it the DEF star. That was my fun. Jason didn't like it, but he stuck with it. DEF, on video games, you only had 3 letters if you wanted to enter in your game. Well, we would go to a little hideout place, or hangout place rather, and for the pole position, the default always said ABC. So he started doing DEF.
Oh,
So I said, let's make this the Death Star and have some fun with it. And he after a while took to that. But that's how we use it. And instead of the Death Star, we use it as the miracle magic rock, and the recipe of what mixes with it gives the masks the actual powers that they have. So like I think it was 3 volts, we had a small little recipe book. So 3 volts DC with like an ounce of water gives Spectrum the X-ray ability.
nice. I was wondering where you would go with that, like whether it
So
would be
it'd be just
magic
a
or more
sliver,
tech. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's the magic and tech combined. Now Spectrum had all these magical powers, right? But we left it with only 1 or 2 as the foundation, and then we would piecemeal and work. If we get the M.A.S.K. movie, we could reestablish everything
Fingers
and say,
crossed.
okay, yeah, really. So anyway, so then we had like peroxide, hydrogen peroxide you buy in the brown bottle, and 10 volts of DC with a little bit bigger chunk of the rock, the meteor gives lifting, the loops,
Yeah.
because it's bubbly. So you do that, and we came up with that recipe book. So there's other things like that. Now, the vehicles were just straight out, sci-fi, hope it works type of mechanical experiment. So Thunderhawk, we brought the original Thunderhawk, the 86 IROC, out as a test bed, and we crash it. So that's the Easter egg we've shared a long time for a while. We actually crash Thunderhawk 1, but we mimicked the cartoon because there was a Thunderhawk 1 that was sacrificed in an episode where they land Thunderhawk at the edge of a solar collector, and it explodes the solar collector. So then at the end, in a PSA, there's a Thunderhawk 2
Oh,
that's rebirth. So now we've moved into a very modern, whatever the latest model Camaro is out, we take that and make it Thunderhawk 2, and it's nice, shiny, and new type of things. So we've done that kind of mentality, but we've left Venom very poor. They live in the 80s, so they have to go find the 84 Ford Bronco to make Jackhammer. They piecemeal a mid 80s I say crotch rocket, that's not the right, speed bike, and marry it with a schematic that makes a mini sub sidecar, and that makes Piranha. Vanessa has the Nissan. So it's 80s based stuff. The only sci-fi modern techie vehicle they steal Switchblade. So they have Switchblade as their asset. So again, we play all this out. And of course, there's this one last big hoopla battle. And of course, we couldn't help but bring in Scott and T-Bob to be annoying and in the middle of the action. So they are in the way, and we play that out with them getting involved. And at the end, we even have a PSA. But it's more of they poke fun at the PSAs. So it's like Matt in a recording booth, or I'm sorry, at a whatever the PSA is for toasters, for instance. I can't remember what we scripted, but you don't stick the fork in the toaster. And the Matt character is supposed to look off screen and go, "Are you kidding me? This is what we had to do back in '86. We had to do this kind of stuff, or at least they're paying us." And then he gets back into character, and they all do the PSA. So it's fun. And the only thing I've done with the script, I haven't really touched it since my friend passed, because it was his and I's dream to, we did it as fun. We wanted to cash in on the 80s craze, like the Transformers movie, and see what we could do. But it became where we became unknowingly the experts of M.A.S.K. People were recognizing us. But I say that, we have an Easter egg. I changed it minutely to honor him, in that if I can get Hasbro to buy off and give us a shot, I'd like to, at the end credits, this film is in memory of Jason Gross. But also the Easter egg for the family is there's a scene where they're all in Matt's office. Well, there's Daddy Tracker is a mural in the back, wherever I set him in, but it's Jason is in the mural.
Oh,
So people watching the movie that know who Jason is, they see Jason go, "Hey, that's Jason." That's supposed to be Daddy Tracker that had passed away. So that was the way I wanted to honor him, and hopefully that, again, if I
like
can
he was the
get
previous Tracker, somehow Matt Tracker from the 80s, kind of.
right, and there is a storyline, it more so in the comics, that there was a Dad Tracker, and Matt inherited the oil business or some big business. I believed it was oil. I couldn't nail that down in my little research, but we went with that with the movie, so that he inherited the oil business. So he was rich anyway. He just wanted to service the country with this little side gig of an experiment. But yeah, we had fun with it. We hopefully whomever in the film world would pick it up. I think Hasbro owns it, but hey, money talks. So Netflix or whomever wants to grab it.
It takes a good script. I can help you with that. Because I've got some background in writing. But I know it's a challenge to be able
It
to
is
get the script, and you have to cater to fans and demographics and so forth.
right.
Aside from that, before we end, got about 8 minutes left. Is there any other project, anything you'd like to add?
Nothing major as far as project. Since inheriting Rediscover the 80s and Agents of M.A.S.K, I've just kind of pulled it all together and called it Rediscover Media, as a conglomerate. I fictionalize it as a company, and it's just because I managed another website for my and my late friend's home state or home county, Clearfield County, Pennsylvania. So we grew up there, rural small town USA. Loved it. I do have a side project as well. I've written a book. It's 20 years still in the writing process. I just can't land it to where I think it's ready. But hopefully I can finally just throw it out there, edit or not, and see how it does well. I see it as more as a movie in my head than a book, but I thought, well, maybe I can do the double cash in deal. I can write the book, and then someone will pick it up and go, "Oh, this sounds like a good movie deal," and then get my 2 cents.
Is it a fiction book, or is it a
It's
non?
a fictional movie based on, of all things, I watched the Castaway movie, Tom Hanks.
Oh,
Completely not at all related. There's no parallels with it at all, except that there's a survival where they're stranded. So I took a fictionalized idea back in the early 90s, where the focus was shifted more on seizing the drugs and drug trafficking. And they were, the military is making another side project. They wanted to do something to capture and seize all this activity. So they make a unit within the military, and they use various spy planes, but they could be regular old single engine aircraft doing their surveillance. This is well before what we know as drones
mhm.
and remote planes, or it could be as large as a cargo plane that just happens to be making a cargo run. And that's what I used, as a cargo plane. And the drug guys have just had enough, so they shoot it down. But these guys crash and successfully survive. And the working title is called 6 months, because it's from start to finish. Once they crash until they're rescued, it takes 6 months for them to be rescued. And this is right on the heels of winter in Canada. So they're having to survive in Canada, brutal winters. They kind of go retro, more Fred Flintstone era, where they're having to, survive on what's available. They somewhat loosely tan the hides off a deer, and that's their blankets, that's their makeshift coats for
Mhm.
the winter. and to survive. And of course, like every good story, they get rescued in the end, they get the bad guy, and it's all good. So I've already spoiled the story, but
That's okay.
it's the fun of
The
having
adventure.
to invent this, because I didn't have any survival skills. Even in the military, there wasn't that much that we were handed. So it was a working in progress. As I learned more, I would tweak it and massage it into the storyline. But it's now more of, from my side of it, there's key portions and characters I really want to emphasize. And then there's other characters rather that aren't, they're helpful but not important. But when I've had people review it, and while the feedback is great, they're like, well, what about this guy? He's helping these guys go find the crash landed people. What's their backstory? I don't care. That's not the focus of my book. It's the survival side. It's not the guy hunting them down. It's the survival guy. The three guys. That's where the focus. And then the one of the people, the main character, he's married, so his wife is also in the military. She's wanting to get involved. So there's that soap opera, if you will, back and forth of the wife wants to go find him, but she's told not to. So she goes rogue and does her own research wherever she can find it, while husband's lost in the woods, but we don't know where he's at. And the husband's trying to survive and at the moment stay hidden so the bad guys don't find him. So there's some back and forth that does occur throughout the book. Eventually, obviously, like I said, they get found, but it's just that interweaving and being careful and how to add more detail where I think it's warranted is challenging as a first-time book writer.
We've got to end our thing, but I thought maybe you could mention the names of your websites where we can find you and so forth.
Sure. Rediscoverthe80s.com is where you can find pretty much anything 80s related. There's a podcast with that, Rediscover the 80s, the podcast. There's lots of shows that we go through there with through it. Then there's agentsofmask.com. That is primarily focused right on that cartoon, the Mobile Armor Strike Command. The accompanying podcast is called M.A.S.K, and M.A.S.K, A.S.T. Have fun with that. We do mostly episode by episode and play by play of the whole episode. And I've had some fun. We got to meet Doug Stone, and now he's been able to join me on a couple podcasts, most recently the 40th anniversary back in September. So we had a fun with that, and it's out on both YouTube and on the audio version as well. Those are the two primary websites you can find me and get a hold of me in one way or another.
Oh, cool. Well, I've enjoyed interviewing you, and let's do this again.
Yes, I've had a great time, Jeff.
Cool. All right. Good luck with the movie project and the book and so forth.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
All right.